Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 is out, and overall it is a vast improvement over Part 1. It is still probably the worst season of Bridgerton we have got so far, but I do think that Part 2 is a lot stronger as a chunk than Part 1 was. So in this video, I'm just going to give some quick thoughts on what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I hope to see moving forward in Bridgerton. Now, for those of you who are fans of my previous Bridgerton Season 3 Part 1 video, the 30-minute video, this isn't going to be like that. This is just going to be a quick run through of what I liked and what I didn't like. For those of you who want a more in-depth analysis and breakdown, that will be coming soon this week. So the first big thing I'm happy to report about this season is overall, I do think Colin and Penelope as a pairing and as individual characters are a lot better. They are still not perfect. Colin, for example, I still think feels like a paper-thin character. And by the time this season wraps up, I do still think we are missing some serious character depth with Colin. I find myself wishing I knew what he was thinking. I often don't feel like I have a good grasp on who he is as a person and what he wants out of life. For example, the plot with Colin and him wanting to be a writer feels really rushed and really undercooked, and some of his character motivations relating to that feel a bit rushed. For example, in the back end of Season 3 Part 2, there is a plot line where basically he reveals that the reason he is truly angry at Penelope for being Lady Whistledown is because he is envious of her writing ability. And to me, this feels totally out of left field and really undercooked and genuinely quite strange. Throughout various parts in Season 2 and the first part of Season 3, he swore an oath and expressed severe hatred and loathing for Whistledown, and this was prior to knowing that it was Penelope. So the idea that Season 3 Part 2 throws at us that really this is all coming from some deep-seated envy feels really kind of strange to me. However, in saying that, it's not all bad with Colin. When he really starts to fight for Penelope and for her honor and to defend Whistledown, I think it's really quite compelling, and it sort of shows signs of the Colin I miss from the first two seasons. So even though at the start his performance still feels a little strange to me, I think as the season goes on, he kind of dips back into the older Colin that we knew and loved. I think the most major improvement in this chunk of the season is Penelope. I think she is a far more well-realized character, thank God. I think the conflict with her mother this season is far more interesting. I actually really love the plot line about Penelope's mum trying to weasel her way into Penelope's life now that Penelope has access to money and is getting married. I think it's a really interesting plot line, and I actually like the nuance that comes up as Penelope struggles to forgive her and reconcile that relationship with her mother. I think it's actually quite well handled and really quite fascinating. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I ever bought the relationship between Colin and Penelope, their friends to lovers, and this big payoff as much as the show really wanted me to. However, I do actually have to give a lot of credit to the actress that plays Penelope. I think she does a really good job of displaying infatuation and admiration in Colin. I think all her facial expressions, when they're meant to be loving and full of admiration, are really quite well done, and these moments I can really feel the chemistry coming through the screen. I also thought their one and only big sort of sex scene of the season was really well handled. Now, there were a lot of discussions going into this last chunk of Season 3 about how steamy and intimate these scenes were going to be. The actress was consistently sort of talking about this in press circuits, and I think this one big scene we get is really well handled. However, I will say, given the press tour and given all the talk about these scenes, I was kind of expecting more of them. The rest of the steamy scenes this season are made up of Benedict and his throuple. Circling back to Penelope, I really do appreciate all the interesting ideas you could take from the dynamics explored between her and her mother. However, unfortunately, I feel like this nuance and depth wasn't applied to other parts of Penelope's character. I really did love when her identity as Whistledown was revealed to the Ton and to Colin. However, I feel like this plot line was resolved far too easily and far too quickly for my liking. There was such a great sense of drama and stakes when this was all coming out. I genuinely felt for Penelope, an accomplishment I didn't think was going to happen based off Season 3 Part 1. And I love that the back end of this season was really setting up the conflict for Colin, and also setting up how much disdain Queen Charlotte really did have for the concept of Whistledown and how much she really wanted to hold her accountable. And I'm really sorry to say, unfortunately, I just did not buy that the whole town would forgive her that quickly and Queen Charlotte would forgive her that quickly. When she gave that final speech at the ceremony, it felt a bit too rushed, too quick, and too convenient for my liking. And on top of that, I really don't think anyone in the town would agree to her sentiment. This whole angle of like, we all need gossip in our lives is a cute idea on paper until you really dissect it. From what I understand about the Ton's relationship with Whistledown, Whistledown represents genuine scandalous gossip that people don't want leaking out to the public. Whistledown represents serious reputational damage. So this idea that Penelope is presenting at the end of the season that gossip brings everyone together and we all have an innate desire for it feels really quite strange. screen. I'm struggling to believe that the whole town just goes, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And even if the town can get behind it, I'm really struggling to buy that Queen Charlotte is that forgiving that quickly, given how long standing this feud has been. So all in all, I do think they improved Colin's character a bit, and I think they improved Penelope's character a substantial amount. All the Whistledown Revelation stuff was really exciting while it was happening. I just wish it was handled better in its wrap-up. Next, Cressida. I'm a bit sort of mixed about Cressida. There were moments I loved. I loved the bit where she named herself Whistledown. I thought that represented such exciting story potential. However, I feel like the wrap-up with her story was a bit quick, a bit clean, and a bit rushed as well. I'll go more in depth with this in my big video that I do for Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2, but basically I just feel like the ideas it was setting up were so fascinating, and I really thought this could have served for really great drama, and unfortunately I just think it kind of fell to the background, and Cressida became another two-dimensional character when in the first half of Season 3, it really felt like they were setting her up to be a more three-dimensional character. So all my substantial notes or nitpicks do kind of fall under Colin and Penelope, because the rest of the side characters I really think Season 3 Part 2 handled incredibly well. I thought Francesca was really fascinating. I thought her relationship with Kilmartin was genuinely quite enthralling at different points. On top of that, I thought the character work we got with Kilmartin was really fascinating. I loved all the scenes with him interacting with the Bridgerton boys, and it was really nice to see him become a three-dimensional character. I wasn't expecting that so soon. I also thought this is some of the best Eloise moments we've got in the whole show. I really liked her dynamic with Colin, with Penelope, with Whistledown, and the way she was being pulled in all these different directions, and I thought the actress that played her pulled off all this drama and tension incredibly well. I did not like the Mondricks. I have never liked the Mondricks, and they are exponentially worse in Season 3 Part 2. They were terrible in Season 3 Part 1, and here they are a complete waste of time. Thankfully, the screenwriters seem to have realized this, and they include them for about 4 minutes. The extent of their character arc here is basically they don't need the pub anymore, and they're kind of sad because they miss the pub. It is embarrassing. I don't know what they are trying to do with the Mondricks. Cut them. Unless you're going to give them something good to do, this needs to stop. It's getting genuinely embarrassing. Finally, in terms of characters, I absolutely loved what they were doing with Benedict this season. I did not think they would deliver on the queer baiting that we got in Season 1. They're full on exploring the idea that Benedict is a bisexual character. We basically have a Regency era challenges moment where Benedict gets involved in a throuple, and it's incredibly fascinating, and I really wasn't expecting this specific story to go in that direction. I was genuinely surprised. I appreciate any time a show can actually surprise me with what it's doing. Some notable scenes I enjoyed this season was when Colin defended Penelope to her mother. I thought it was a really well done scene. I also really liked the sequence where they were playing a game of riddles or trivia, and Penelope and Eloise kind of went head to head on that. A really quite fun scene and says a lot about the characters. I really like the sequences where Cressida was trying to mimic Lady Whistledown's writing style, and I like the scene where she started to blackmail them and really go head to head. And I really like the scene where Colin squared up against Cressida and lost. A really great character moment. The last thing I want to talk about, which I will go more in depth in my big Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 video, is the technical elements are still getting weird and clunky, which is an issue that wasn't that present in Season 1 and 2. It was something I brought up in Season 3 Part 1. What is going on with these camera angles? They're still doing it. It's not as bad as Season 3 Part 1, but every once in a while they just have a camera angle where a character is like at this point in the frame or this point in the frame, or it's up their nose. Like, why do they keep doing it? On top of that, these goofy moments where there's meant to be tension and they make the screen all black and white and blurry and like zoom it in on their face. It's distracting, it's weird, I don't like it, and they keep doing that. The transitionary like establishing shots have got so much worse this season. You know, these overhead bird's eye views of the town that they live in genuinely look like they're out of Polar Express. They look like weird PlayStation 2 graphics, particularly the smoke coming out of chimneys. Like, if you can't do it well, just stop doing them. On top of that, another technical goof, there was this moment where the strings were playing to the camera and they were genuinely out of time. There was silence and the violin bow was still moving. And then there was this other moment where they used an establishing shot of a street with people walking by twice. It was in episode 5 and then it was in episode 7, and they thought we wouldn't notice, but I noticed. Anyways, regardless, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, please like, please let me know what you'd like me to talk about next. And please keep your eyes peeled and turn notifications on, because I will be doing a 30 to 40 minute deep dive about Season 3 Part 2 and Season 3 as a whole. Thank you so much for watching.